I'm imagining someone listening to this episode today who is feeling all alone. As this podcast is devoted primarily to adoptive parents, I can imagine an adoptive parent listening to this and on their journey of raising adopted children, feeling very lonely. I can say that because that's how my wife and I felt. We felt at times that we were all alone, that no one else was going through what we were going through. What's the solution for something like that? That's where I think you need to grab hold of an anchor.
Will my adopted child be okay? What will their future look like? Where did I go wrong? Hi neighbor, I'm Tim, an adoptive parent and adoption mentor. If you're a struggling adoptive parent searching for answers in your parenting journey, you're in the right place. I teach Christian adoptive parents how to be okay, even if their kids aren't, by anchoring them in biblical principles. Anchors of hope and healing are on the way.
Today I would like to begin by sharing a story with you from my childhood. It was 1973. I was watching the Belmont Stakes. I've watched many horse races since, but that one stands out and I can visualize it just like it was yesterday, because that's when the Great Secretariat became the first Triple Crown winner in, I don't know how many years it had been, but it had been several decades. And that's when he shattered the record at Belmont Park. As Secretariat was pulling away from Sham was the horse that finished second in the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. But on this day, he ran out of gas. As Secretariat was pulling away, Chick Anderson said, "Secretariat is moving like a tremendous machine." He was. It was just incredible to watch him run. As the rest of the field caught up with Sham, Anderson said, "Secretariat is all alone." He was. He wasn't racing those horses that day. He was racing history. And to this day, his record still stands. I don't know, since he was an animal, what he understood. If he was just running as fast as he could so he could get to the food at the end, I don't know. The thing that stood out to me from that remark, that Secretariat was all alone, it's something that very few individuals, or animals in this case, but very few sports figures get to realize, that they are so good at what they do that they are the ones standing alone. I certainly can't relate to that, and to the exhilaration that being the best at whatever I'm doing in a sporting event would feel like. I have no idea. And I think it's safe to say that most of us will not realize what it is to reach the pinnacle of some sporting proficiency. But there's another way to look at being all alone that I believe most of us, if not all of us, including sports figures, will at some point feel in their lives. And that's when things aren't going well. When you're running the race of life, as things aren't going well, there can become times when you feel like you're all alone. I'm imagining someone listening to this episode today who is feeling all alone. As this podcast is devoted primarily to adoptive parents, I can imagine an adoptive parent listening to this and on their journey of raising adopted children, feeling very lonely. I can say that because that's how my wife and I felt. We felt at times that we were all alone, that no one else was going through what we were going through. Now, at the time, if somebody had pressed me and really dug deep with some questions about why I said or felt that way, honestly, I would have been able to tell them, no, that's really not true. I'm sure there's someone somewhere going through what I'm going through. But at the time that we were experiencing these difficulties, that's how I felt, and that's how my wife felt. We had each other, But we felt at the time that we were the only adoptive couple going through what we were going through. It wasn't until we were visiting our son at residential treatment and we were listening to the stories of other adoptive parents that we understood what we were going through wasn't all that uncommon for adoptive parents. And even though we were dealing with something very difficult, the fact that we realized after those meetings that other adoptive parents were experiencing difficulties and challenges too, it took some of the pressure off of us because we realized we were not alone. It's easy to feel that way, especially about adoption trauma. It's easy to feel that you're alone, that you're the only one. And one of the reasons you feel that way is because others just don't talk about it. We certainly weren't talking about it. I've mentioned in other episodes that while we were experiencing these challenges, we actually had friends pulling away from us. And when that begins to happen, it's natural for a person to feel alone. It's natural for a person to feel like they're the only ones going through this. Well, for that individual who is listening to this episode whenever and wherever you are, if you're feeling like you're alone, I want to tell you today, there are others in the same situations that you're dealing with, going through the same struggles. What's the solution for something like that? That's where I think you need to grab hold of an anchor. And what I would like to do today is something a little bit different than I've done in previous episodes. This is going to involve some listener participation. Now, I don't know if you're going to take me up on this, but I would like to invite you to get a piece of paper and something to write with. And I'm going to take you through an exercise that I have personally done myself. And whether you do it or not is up to you, but I'm going to walk you through this. It's really simple. But when you get that piece of paper and something to write with, I would like you to write the word anchor. Write the word anchor on that paper. But rather than write it horizontally, I would like for you to write the word vertically. And once you do that, I'm going to share with you some insights from my own personal experiences that I hope will resonate with you. We're going to begin this exercise by considering some of the feelings that are normal when you feel alone. Next to the letter A, write the word anxiety. I know going through this adoption trauma with my wife and my son, there was a lot of anxiety that we felt. When we felt all alone, there was a lot of anxiety, and it was normal to feel that way. For the letter N, write the word negativity. My wife and I had so many negative feelings that were running through our heads. The situation was negative. We didn't understand it. And it was negative because we didn't understand how to help our son, how to help him process it, how to help our family process it. For the letter C, write the word crisis. We were in crisis mode. And the crisis became more intensified the lonelier we felt. It was not a pleasant experience. Next to the letter H, write the word heavy. This was a heavy experience. We felt the weight of the trauma. I know my son had to be feeling it because he didn't understand it either. And it was really him who was experiencing the brunt of it. But as his parents, we were experiencing it as well. Adoption can be very heavy at times. Next to the letter O, write the word overwhelm. It was an overwhelming feeling. It was so heavy, the crisis we were going through, the negativity of it, and the anxiety. It was just almost too much to bear. And then next to the letter R, write the word reeling. We really felt like we were reeling as a family. We were in a free fall. We just had no way and nowhere to go for any kind of comfort or any kind of solutions. We literally felt all alone. That's how we felt. That's why we needed to grab hold of an anchor. And that's what we did. And that's what I want to encourage you to do today. But I want to take now this same word, and you can either write next to each one of these letters and words that you started with, or you can write the word anchor down vertically again. It's totally up to you. But I want to encourage you to now look at this word in a positive way. I've shared some negative ideas, negative feelings that came across to us that we were going through. And before we get to the positive part, if you want to take a few minutes and just sit with this and write down your feelings. Now, you don't have to formulate this into words that begin with each one of these letters. That's how my mind works. But I would encourage you to sit with this for a while. Go for a walk, go for a drive. Ask yourself before you go to bed, what are the types of feelings am I feeling as I feel all alone with my adoption trauma that I'm trying to navigate my family through? Write those feelings down. I want you to touch those feelings. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. It can make you feel uncomfortable. And that's the point. You need to be willing to feel uncomfortable. Because until you can feel uncomfortable, you can't begin to feel the experience of the healing. Give yourself permission. Show yourself some grace. Feel uncomfortable. Touch these feelings. Now, as you're touching these feelings, let's look at the positive way to consider this word anchor. Next to the letter A, I'm going to share again my takeaways and words that resonate with me. And I hope they resonate with you. But next to the letter A, we're looking for solutions to this feeling of loneliness, this feeling that you're the only one going through this. For the letter A, the word association comes up. You need to realize that there are others going through this. There are people who can empathize. That is, they understand because they're experiencing this personally themselves. So association is really important. For the letter N, it's neighbor. I call you neighbor on this podcast. I don't care where you live geographically or what time zone you come from or what language you speak. We're all neighbors. You need a neighbor that can understand and you can associate with so you don't feel all alone. Next to the letter C, write community. We need a community that we can lean on and be a part of to help navigate these challenges. And for the letter H, to replace the idea of heaviness, we need hope and we need healing. I like both of those words, hope and healing. You hear me talk about that a lot in this podcast. Next to the letter O, we've talked about overwhelm. Let's overcome overwhelm. And by associating with other people, with your neighbors in a community that is going through these types of things, you can begin to experience the healing, the hope in the healing, and you can overcome overwhelm. And rather than, as we get to the letter R, rather than reeling, you will begin to experience respite, actual rest. And that's one of the things that I noticed in our own lives. There were a lot of sleepless nights where you just could not relax because of the situations and the challenges that were being presented. Respite is so important, but you can begin to experience respite when you grab hold of an anchor. Well, let's get to the daily doable. I want you to understand, if I haven't made it clear already, you are not alone. And just like I asked and challenged you to take the word anchor and write down your own negative feelings and touch those negative feelings, if you will trust me to do this, I believe you can start to replace the negativity with positivity. You can begin to replace it with things that speak to solutions that will help you to overcome these feelings of loneliness and this whole idea that you are the only one going through this. And the big daily doable that I want to encourage you to participate in is to join our community. I'll have a link in the show notes, and you can be a part of like-minded individuals. This is a safe environment, a safe space for you to share your feelings, to touch those things that are challenging you, and to receive hope and healing from other people. Again, that link will be in the show notes. As we wrap this episode up, I want to encourage you to grab hold of an anchor. If that can be myself to encourage you, that's one of the reasons for this podcast. I really want this podcast to be a source of hope and healing, to be that anchor for you when you have those feelings of loneliness and when you think that you're the only one. You are not the only one. And I want to give you one bonus that goes without saying, but I want to impress upon you the importance of reaching out to the Almighty, because He is the ultimate source of comfort, the ultimate source of hope and healing. And you can receive the respite that you need if you reach out to Him.
Before I go, I want to share something I'm working on, something I wish had existed when my wife and I were struggling in our adoption journey, when we faced unanswered questions, sleepless nights, and when we felt completely alone. Maybe that's where you are today. Do you need help with anxiety management when it comes to parenting your adopted child? I know you just want your kids to be okay, and I want to help with that. No more parenting and constant anxiety. No more flipping through Scripture not knowing where to look for your answers. No more sitting in silent panic over what's going on with your kids and what it's doing to your home, your heart, and your hope. Over the past 25 years, I've discovered practical tools that have helped me stay grounded and anchored in God's Word, even when everything else felt like it was falling apart. Today, you've gotten a taste of that framework. And now I'm creating something designed to offer real, practical help and emotional support for adoptive parents like you, especially when it comes to managing anxiety through a biblical lens. I'd love to talk with you about it. This is a safe, honest conversation between two adoptive parents who get it. We'll talk about what you're walking through and what kind of support would actually help you right now, right where you are. You need this because it's time to put an end to the anxiety that's stealing the joy from your parenting journey. Let's take that first step together. Book your anxiety management call with me today. Email me to book an anxiety management call, tim@anchorsoфencouragement.com. That's tim@anchorsoфencouragement.com. I'll also include the link in the show notes. Remember, you are not alone. There is hope. There is support to help you stay anchored in your adoption journey. That's all for this episode. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, this is Tim, encouraging you to do what you can now. I hope today's episode encouraged you to face the storms in your parenting journey with courage and confidence. If so, would you please share this episode with another adoptive parent? It would also bless me in the mission of this podcast if you would take a couple of minutes and leave a review for the show on Apple Podcast. Until next time, this is Tim, encouraging you to do what you can now.